Imagine a world without electric light. No light switches. No bright rooms at night. No cities glowing in the dark. When the sun went down, everything became dark. People used candles, oil lamps, and fire to see at night. But these sources of light were not perfect. They were often weak, sometimes dangerous, and not always reliable. A small mistake could cause a fire. And even when they worked, the light was dim and limited. Nighttime was very different from today. Work stopped early. Streets were dark. Life slowed down. Now imagine a small glass object. A simple bulb that could produce light using electricity. No fire. No smoke. Just light. In 1879, a man created a light that could stay on for many hours. His name was Thomas Edison. This invention changed the way humans live, work, and see the world. But here is an interesting question. Was Edison really the first person to invent the light bulb? Or was his invention part of a longer story? And why did it take so many years, and so many failed experiments, to create something that seems so simple today? Let's discover how the first light bulb was truly invented. Before electric light was invented, people depended on simple and often unsafe ways to see at night. When the sun went down, darkness quickly filled homes, streets, and workplaces. To bring light into their lives, people used candles, oil lamps, and gas lamps. Candles were one of the most common sources of light. They were made from wax and had a small flame that could light a room. However, candles had many problems. They were often expensive, especially for poor families, and they did not produce much light. A single candle could only light a small area, so people needed many candles to brighten a room. This made them even more costly. Oil lamps were another popular option. These lamps used oil, such as whale oil or kerosene, to produce a flame. Oil lamps were brighter than candles, but they were not perfect. They often produced smoke and had a strong, unpleasant smell. The air inside homes could become dirty and uncomfortable. In addition, oil lamps required constant attention. If not used carefully, they could easily cause fires. In many cities during the 19th century, gas lamps were installed on streets and in buildings. These lamps used gas that flowed through pipes and burned at the top to create light. Gas lamps were brighter than candles and oil lamps, and they helped make cities safer at night. However, they were still dangerous. Gas leaks could cause explosions, and fires were always a risk. Because of these limitations, life at night was very different from today. Streets were often dark and quiet. People tried to finish their work before sunset. Factories and businesses were limited because they depended on natural daylight. Working at night was difficult, uncomfortable, and sometimes dangerous. Imagine trying to read, write, or work in such conditions. Even simple tasks became harder when there was not enough light. As cities grew and industries developed, people began to feel a strong need for something better. They wanted a new kind of light that was safer, brighter, and longer lasting. They needed a solution that could work indoors and outdoors without the risks of fire or smoke. This growing demand pushed scientists and inventors to search for a new way to produce light. And soon, that search would lead to one of the most important inventions in human history. Creating electric light was not as simple as it may seem today. In the 19th century, electricity itself was still a new and developing field. Scientists were only beginning to understand how it worked. While some early experiments had already shown that electricity could produce light, turning that idea into something useful for everyday life was extremely difficult. There were three main problems that inventors needed to solve. The first problem was creating light using electricity. Early scientists, such as Humphrey Davy, had already shown that electric light was possible. In the early 1800s, Davy created an electric arc light by passing electricity between two pieces of carbon. This produced a very bright light. However, it was too strong, too expensive, and not suitable for homes. It required a lot of power and could not be used safely indoors. So, even though electric light existed, it was not practical. The second problem was finding the right material for the filament. A filament is the thin material inside a light bulb that glows when electricity passes through it. The challenge was to find a material that could glow brightly without burning too quickly. Many materials were tested, including different metals and plant fibers. Most of them failed. They either burned out too fast or did not produce enough light. This made it very difficult to create a stable light source. The third problem was making the light last long enough to be useful. Early electric lights could shine for only a short time before the filament broke or burned away. This made them unreliable and expensive. People needed a light that could stay on for many hours, not just a few minutes. Because of these challenges, inventors around the world began asking an important question. How can we create electric light that is safe, stable, and long-lasting? Solving this problem required not only scientific knowledge, but also patience and creativity. Many inventors tried and failed, but each failure brought them one step closer to the solution. And soon, one inventor would finally find a way to turn electric light into something practical for everyday life. The story of the first practical light bulb is closely connected to one of the most famous inventors in history, Thomas Edison. He was born in 1847 in the United States. From a young age, Edison was very curious. He liked to ask questions and experiment with things around him. Unlike many scientists of his time, he did not have a formal education in science. Instead, he learned by doing, by testing ideas, and by making mistakes. Edison was not a traditional scientist. He was an inventor and businessman. He believed that ideas should not only exist in theory, but should also be useful in real life. Before working on the light bulb, he had already made important improvements to the telegraph, making communication faster and more efficient. He also invented the phonograph, a device that could record and play back sound. These successes showed that Edison was skilled at turning ideas into practical inventions. One of Edison's most important beliefs was that success comes from continuous experimentation. He is often remembered for the idea, "I did not fail. I just found many ways that do not work." This mindset helped him stay motivated even when his experiments failed. Edison did not work alone. He built a team of engineers and researchers who worked together in his laboratory. In Menlo Park, New Jersey, he created one of the first research laboratories in the world. This lab became a center of innovation where new ideas were tested every day. Instead of working slowly over many years, Edison and his team worked quickly, testing many ideas at the same time. However, it is important to understand that Edison was not the only person trying to create electric light. Before him, Humphrey Davy had already demonstrated electric light in the early 1800s using arc lamps. Later, in the 1870s, an English inventor named Joseph Swan developed an early version of a light bulb using carbon filaments. Swan's design was an important step forward, but it still had problems. The bulb did not last long enough, and it was not efficient for everyday use. Many inventors were working on the same problem at the same time. So what made Edison different? Edison's advantage was not just his creativity, it was his focus on practical and long-lasting solutions. While others created early versions of electric light, Edison wanted to design a system that people could actually use in their homes and businesses. He understood that a successful light bulb needed more than just light. It needed to be safe, reliable, affordable, long-lasting. He also knew that the light bulb was only part of a bigger system. To make electric lighting useful, people also needed a way to deliver electricity to homes and buildings. This meant that Edison was not only thinking about the bulb itself, but also about the entire electrical system that would support it. With his team in Menlo Park, his belief in experimentation, and his focus on real-world use, Edison was ready to take on one of the greatest challenges of his time. Now, all that remained was to find the right solution. And that solution would require thousands of experiments, many failures, and one important breakthrough. After building his laboratory in Menlo Park, Thomas Edison and his team began working seriously on the problem of electric light. They knew that success would not come from one simple idea. It would require many experiments, careful testing, and a lot of patience. Their main goal was to find the right filament, the thin material inside the bulb that would glow when electricity passed through it. This was the most important part of the light bulb. If the filament failed, the entire system would fail. So Edison and his team began testing hundreds, then thousands of different materials. They experimented with metal wires, such as platinum, because metals could conduct electricity well. However, most metals had serious problems. Some melted too quickly when heated. Others required too much electricity, making them expensive and impractical. Next, they tried different types of carbon materials. Carbon could glow when heated, but many carbon filaments were too weak. They broke easily or burned out after a short time. Then they turned to plant fibers. They tested materials like cotton, wood, paper, and even hair. Each material was carefully prepared, shaped into a filament, and placed inside a glass bulb. Again and again, the results were disappointing. Some filaments burned too fast. Others were too weak to handle the heat. Some were unstable and broke during use. Many experiments lasted only a few minutes before failing. At times, it seemed impossible to find a material that could work. But Edison did not stop. He believed that every failure was a step closer to success. Instead of seeing failure as a problem, he saw it as information. Each test showed him what did not work, helping him move closer to what might work. His team worked long hours, often late into the night. They carefully recorded every experiment, every result, and every small improvement. This systematic approach allowed them to learn quickly and improve their designs step by step. One of the key challenges was not just the filament itself, but also the environment inside the bulb. Edison realized that oxygen in the air caused the filament to burn quickly. To solve this, he worked on creating a vacuum inside the glass bulb. By removing most of the air, the filament could last longer because it would not burn as quickly. This idea was extremely important. With a better vacuum and improved filament design, the team began to see progress. Then, in 1879, after many trials, Edison made a major breakthrough. He discovered that a filament made from carbonized bamboo worked much better than previous materials. When treated and shaped correctly, bamboo fibers could produce a strong, stable filament that glowed brightly when electricity passed through it. Even more importantly, this filament could last for many hours. In one famous test, the bulb stayed lit for over 40 hours, which was a huge improvement compared to earlier designs. For the first time, electric light was not just possible, it was practical. The combination of a carbon filament and a vacuum-sealed glass bulb allowed the light to shine steadily without burning out quickly. This solved the key problems that had stopped earlier inventors. Edison had finally created a light bulb that could be used in homes and businesses. But he did not stop there. He continued improving the design, making the bulbs more efficient and longer-lasting. His team also worked on developing the electrical systems needed to power these lights, including generators and wiring systems. This was not just the invention of a single device. It was the creation of a complete system for electric lighting. What made Edison's success so important was not just the idea of the light bulb, but his ability to turn it into something that people could actually use in their daily lives. After thousands of experiments and many failures, Edison had achieved what many others could not. He had turned electric light into a practical reality. And with that, the world was about to become much brighter. After Thomas Edison successfully created a practical light bulb in 1879, people were amazed. For the first time, they saw a light that did not use fire, did not produce smoke, and could stay on for many hours. It was something completely new. At first, electric light was shown in demonstrations. People gathered to see this strange glowing bulb. It looked simple, but the idea behind it was powerful. Slowly, more people began to understand its importance. Soon, cities started installing electric lights. Streets that were once dark became brighter and safer at night. People could walk outside without fear of accidents or crime in poorly lit areas. Public spaces became more active after sunset. Homes also began to change. Electric light replaced candles and oil lamps. Rooms became cleaner because there was no smoke or strong smell. Light was brighter and more stable, making daily life easier and more comfortable. Factories experienced one of the biggest changes. Before electric light, work depended on daylight. Once the sun set, most work had to stop. But with electric lighting, factories could operate at night. This increased productivity and helped industries grow faster. Businesses could stay open longer. Shops, offices, and services became more flexible. Cities became more active and alive, even after dark. Over time, electric light began to replace older lighting systems, such as gas lamps. Although gas lighting had been widely used in cities, it was still dangerous and required constant maintenance. Electric lighting was safer, cleaner, and more reliable. But the impact of the light bulb did not stop with lighting alone. It led to the development of modern electrical systems. To support electric light, cities needed power stations, wires, and distribution networks. This created the foundation for the electrical infrastructure we use today. Electricity soon powered more than just lights. It powered machines, appliances, and eventually entire industries. The invention of the light bulb helped open the door to the modern electrical world. As a result, human life began to change in a fundamental way. People were no longer limited by daylight. The world became a place where activity could continue 24 hours a day. Cities became brighter. Homes became safer. Work became more efficient. In a very real sense, the invention of the light bulb made the world brighter, both physically and economically. What started as a simple glowing filament inside a glass bulb became one of the most important changes in human history. Today, light is everywhere around us. We turn on a switch, and the room becomes bright in seconds. We use LED lights, smart lighting systems, and energy-saving bulbs in our homes, offices, and cities. At night, streets are full of light, and buildings shine across the skyline. It feels normal to us now. But it all started with a simple idea. A small glass bulb, a thin filament, and one question: can we create light using electricity? Thomas Edison's story teaches us something important. Innovation is not always about one big moment. It is often the result of patience, experimentation, and persistence. Edison and his team tested thousands of materials. They failed many times, but they did not stop. Step by step, they moved closer to success. And eventually, they created something that changed the world. This story reminds us that even the simplest ideas can become powerful inventions if we continue working on them. Now, here is a question for you. What invention makes your life easier every day? Is it electric light? Your smartphone? Or something else you use all the time? Share your answer in the comments. If you enjoy learning English through real and meaningful stories, like this video, leave your comment below. And subscribe to Invention English for more stories that help you improve your English step by step. Because every great invention begins with an idea and a story worth learning.